morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'd like to play you an audio of war veteran Nox Chirevo. I think he's one of the war veterans who have stood up for what they believe in. And what he's saying here is what every war veteran out there should have been saying all along. I must apologize, I do not have the video of it, so I'll play the audio of it.
Yes, Mr. Tasana ne Hiroshi Magamba. Mukona Hiroshi Chiremekedzwa ere zuva zororo remagamba sezvaraimboitwa kare.
Hiroshi Magamba kandiwo zororo guru chazvinofanira kuremekedzwa nemwana wese weZimbabwe anoziva kwatakabva. Izuva rekuremekedza vakafera nyika ino. Izuva guru. Vakafera nyika ino vanofanira kuremekedzwa. Vakafa nevapenyu. Vakafa nevapenyu. Saka harisi zuva rekutamba naro.
Saka muri kuona here kuti mamiriro azvaita mazuva ano munyika muno ruremekedzo remagamba uru nematongerwo ari kuitwa nyika muri kuona vachiremekedzwa zvakanyanyisira.
Magamba vanhu vanofanira kunge vachiremekedzwa zvakanyanya, asi munguva yese yatabva iyi zviri kuratidza kuti chiremerera chemagamba chadzikira zvakanyanya. Vazhinji vakuita kuita associate mawar veterans nezvinhu zvinenge zviri zveutsinye zvinongoitwa, and yet it's not supposed to be like that. Gamba war veteran munhu akaenda kunorwira nyika, akaenda kunorwira Zimbabwe nekunorwira ruzhinji rwevanhu rweZimbabwe. Haana kuenda kunorwira munhu, haana kuenda kunorwira musangano, akarwira vanhu. Saka Gamba war veteran anofanira kunge achitori iye ari pamberi anoita spearhead to champion zvido zvevanhu vaakarwira vakafirwa neveruzhinji, kwete kuti war veteran anonyarara. War veteran ukaona nyarara arasika. Saka nyaya iripo pairi yenyaya yerespect yamutaura kumagamba. Unonzwa vanhu tichitaura nenyaya zvekuti principles and values of the liberation struggle dzakanganwiwa, hapana ari kudzitevedza. Chikonzero ndechei? The truth of the matter is war veteran rimwe nerimwe rese rakaitwa orientation yakakwana, especially vekutanga kutenda kunana East Africa. Vakatendwa kwenguva yakareba ende vakasaripiwa orientation and induction liberation politics and politicization yakakwana. Magroups ekuzonopedzesera zvawo hendo yakunopera yakunana 79 78 79 ndo kune vazhinji vakanga vakuita indoctrination yange yakanga yakuita less and less because the demands yevarwi paground yakanga yawanda ende hondo yakanga yakura. Saka dambudziko riripo manje nderekuti iye zvine right now as we see chinonzi kana chitaura kuti revolutionary party Zanu PF tinenge tichireva party ine gwara revolution zvaidiwa zvakadzidziswa vanhu varwi verusununguko vamuri kutaura. Saka dambudziko rinenge ravapo manje rare kuti revolutionary parties yakanga iri ZAPU Nkomo ende ZANU Chirevo ende Mugabe up to 1980. And that is what I believe is the true revolutionary parties. Dzakazonobatana to form the current Zanu PF. Mwana azvarwa ane maparents ma-revolutionary parties. PF, ZAPU Nkomo and ZAPU Chirevo and Mugabe up to 1980. Asati azoratidza his true colors. Saka mwana akazvarwa uyu ndewandiri kuona kunge inhodzerwa. Tingatongoti is a genetically modified revolutionary party.
Saka mukureva kuti ruling party iripo iyi dema veterans wakanga varipo hapana ukama, pane ukama here.
Ukama huripo ukama hwebrand yekuti is a child of revolutionary parents.
Right.
Saka ukama hweassociation, but in terms of values and the principles zvakatosiyana, because revolution haina kuzoenderera mberi yakahijackwa pandogara ichitaura kuti manationalist madhari ekumajeri vakaita hijack the revolution. To the end tapedzisira taane byproduct yekubatana kwakaita the true revolutionary parents ndobva vafoma a genetically modified revolutionary party iri kuclaimwa kuti we are a revolutionary party when I don't believe kuti ichiri revolution liberation revolution pagozoita looting revolution. This is a looting revolution yatikusangana nayo right now. Revolutionary party chaidzo maparents aive nemavalues and principles of the liberation struggle. They promise human freedom, freedom of expression, equal opportunities, no corruption, no nepotism. Mwana akazvarwa uyu aiwa uyu ari kuita zvese manje ndozvaari kuita zvisizvo manje, corruption, uori, kuba, utsinye. Saka mamuti uri revolutionary pakudini zvasiyana nemaparents. Mwana akatosiyana nemaparents ake. Saka now the problem iripo manje ndeyekuti war veterans they were trained and recruited under true revolutionary parties, ZAPU and ZANU. Zaita championed the aspirations of the armed struggle, liberating the people. But now we are Zanu PF, unfortunately, zvikuitika manje war veterans akuti vari kuzamezviona kutotizvo every time andigara chikombrera kuti izvo takakanganika takazodai zvakazodai. It's because yakatosiyana nemaparents akambovariko. Imagine a situation yekuti dai kuri kunzi tiripo maparents revolutionary parents dai vaibheheva sekubheheva kuita mwana wavo winhasi vodedzera kuti atendei kuhondo. Pane munhu akanga achienda here kuhondo aibvumba neunhu kana vaienda kuhondo kwacho aizovabikira sadza diani ndozvavanoita vaisirwa poison parakwati straight away. Saka ndokusiyana kwazvakaita. Saka pari paongororwepo kuti war veterans must stand on their own as an independent and a powerful, influential movement. And could be a political party, but they must come up with a liberation legacy institution or movement, a strong, powerful lobby group. Vasiri associated with any party or affiliated with any party, because it was my vanguards of the revolution. Ndo vanoziva zvinofanira kunge zvichiitika mukati menyika. Ndivo vanofanira kunge iyo zvino zvese vari kunzi machechi dzari kutaudza vari kuti vanhu ngavaitai dialogue chichi dai war veterans varivo vanozviita. War veterans rikatorwa rikaitwa an affiliate or a wing of any political party, it means kuti vanyaradzwa. They will be subjected to party discipline. Vaiswa muchikaribotso. Kana vari kunze ndo vanotopa discipline any political party, whether it is ruling or it is the opposition iri kuaspire kuzotonga. Inofanira kuziva kuti kune war veterans vari powerful, vari independent, vasingaiswe muhomwe any political party.
I think what he's saying there is worth noting. In my view, there are four fundamental issues that he raises. The number one issue is that Zanu PF, Robert Mugabe and his Zanu PF cronies have hijacked the revolution. What has happened to Zimbabwe is not what the people of Zimbabwe believed they were fighting and many died for. That cannot be denied. Robert Mugabe and his cronies have hijacked the revolution for their own selfish ends. That is the truth. And this whole idea that they are still a revolution, the Revolutionary Party, and they've got the divine right to rule the country is contrary to what the people believed in. They believed in one man, one vote, freedom of expression, a fair share in the country's wealth. All those things have been thrown out of the window by Robert Mugabe and his cronies. The only time Zimbabwe came to holding free, fair, and credible elections was in 2008, after SADC had put a lot of pressure on Mugabe to accept electoral reforms. And when the party realized that they were going to lose the March 2008 elections, Mnangagwa and Chiwenga apparently forced Mugabe that he should not give up. And they went on to blatantly cheat in the vote count, whittled down Tsvangirai's 73% of the vote to 47% to justify the runoff. And during the runoff, they used wanton violence. Here is Mugabe boasting of his role in that madness.
Kana inina katakaisa bairo panapa ndinochikanda pasi ndoti vakomana kwatakabva.
And yet, the truth still remains. That was not what the people went to war for, and they'd been fighting all along. The second point that Nox raises is the issue of the war veterans. The war veterans should have maintained a non-partisan stance. You can support the party you like, but as a war veteran association, you should be non-partisan. They were coaxed to join Zanu PF. And like all other state Zimbabwean institutions, like SEC, the police, the judiciary, you name it, they've all been turned into departments of Zanu PF. And so it's no surprise that the war veterans themselves have been corrupted and compromised. He's absolutely right. The war veterans, whether they care to admit it or not, have lost political credibility. Ever since Blessed Geza and his colleagues, including Nox, he is in this picture here, the gentleman sitting on the far right-hand side. Ever since their press conference in January, in which they denounced Zanu PF, Mnangagwa has gone out of his way to buy the loyalty of the war veterans. This is a picture of some of the bribes to the war veterans. These are bicycles that were given to the war veterans. This is what Nox was talking about. that the war veterans have been bribed, silenced, varamrom, and they've lost political credibility. It is a pity. The third point that Comrade Nox raised in his audio is that the opposition sold out. The opposition failed to implement the democratic reforms during the 2008 to 2013, when they had the golden opportunity to do so. I think this is a point that many Zimbabweans out there have failed to acknowledge, and yet it is critical. We cannot pretend that in the last 45 years, Zimbabwe did not have an opportunity to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. We did. It's just that in our case, with the misfortune of having an opposition leader who were just as easily corrupted by Mugabe as his own Zanu PF colleagues. Mugabe bribed Morgan Tsvangirai and his MDC friends with the trappings of high office, and they forgot about implementing reforms. That is the political reality. MDC were formed in 1999, and their primary purpose was to implement the democratic reforms to ensure free, fair, and credible elections. They failed to implement even one token reform, particularly during the GNU, when they had the golden opportunity to do so. And ever since the GNU, they've participated in flawed elections out of greed. This is an important political reality to accept. Ever since the GNU, MDC leaders have participated in flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that participating will only give Zanu PF legitimacy. They've participated regardless, out of greed. Worse still, they've conned people to participate, knowing fully well that the process is flawed. Here is Shamisa claiming that he was going to form the next government in 2023 because CCC was going to win the elections because they plugged all the vote rigging loopholes. Hashtag God is in it.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifo iri. Plan ya Mwari haifo iri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
The truth is, he was lying. He lied about plugging the vote rigging loopholes. He was also lying that God was in it. God was never in any of his harebrained schemes. Why would God be involved in something that man can do it for himself? You cannot go into an election without something even as basic as a verified voters roll. In this particular case, the country had the wonderful opportunity of having a team like Team Pachelu, who revealed that the voters roll was in shambles. So why did we not push to have a verified voters roll? The people believed Chamisa when he said they plugged the vote rigging loopholes, so that you don't need a verified voters roll. It was, of course, a mistake. He had not plugged any vote rigging loopholes. Zanu PF went on to blatantly rig those elections. And because people had participated in their millions, we gave Zanu PF legitimacy. The third point that Nox makes is he was asked whether he believes this idea that the people should be looking at starting another war to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. He dismissed it. And I totally agree with him. Why would you want to start another liberation war, shed more innocent blood to end the Zanu PF dictatorship, when you can end it without waging another war? MDC leaders had the golden opportunity to implement the democratic reforms which would have ended the Zanu PF dictatorship during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. They sold out. Just because MDC leaders sold out does not mean there's no Zimbabwean out there who can implement those reforms. All we need is to create another environment, another situation where we've got a new GNU. And that can easily be achieved. If MDC had not conned people to participate in the 2023 elections, for instance, in their millions, SADC would not have given Zanu PF legitimacy. SADC's own election observers condemned that process as flawed and illegal. But they could not take the next step and deny Zanu PF legitimacy because we had participated in those flawed elections. It was SADC who refused to recognize Zanu PF following the 2008 elections that forced Mugabe and Zanu PF to go in the GNU. Why we are now saying, oh, SADC would not be able to do it again. Why not? Many leaders in SADC condemned Zimbabwe's flawed election processes. But as long as people of Zimbabwe continue to participate in flawed elections in their millions, as we did in 2008, in 2023, SADC would not do anything. Right now, Chamisa is already drumming up to con people to participate in flawed 2028 elections under the pretext that this time the opposition will win the rigged elections. After 45 years of Zanu PF rigging the elections, why anyone would be so easily conned into believing that this time Zanu PF will lose an election process in which they've got carte blanche powers to rig. Beggars belief. We do not need another armed struggle to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. We just need to use our heads. I totally agree with war veteran Nox Chirevo that the war veterans have lost political credibility because they've allowed themselves to be co-opted into Zanu PF. The presence that Mnangagwa has been giving them is not what the Liberation War was all about. This was just a bribe. Faramurom. And I think no self-respecting war veteran could ever accept that he can be bribed with a bicycle. I believe that the war veterans, many of them who lost their lives, were fighting for a better Zimbabwe, not only for the war veterans and the Zanu PF ruling elite, but a better Zimbabwe for all Zimbabweans. The corruption that is destroying Zimbabwe today, Mnangagwa used looted wealth to buy all these bicycles for these war veterans, to buy their silence. This is ridiculous. Are the war veterans going to be silenced and say nothing about the rampant corruption and the denial of the ordinary Zimbabweans of their fundamental right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country because Mnangagwa bought you a bicycle? Tragic. That would really be tragic. And yet, many out there would agree that that is exactly what Zanu PF has done. For the last 45 years, it has co-opted the war veterans to become a department of Zanu PF. And bought their silence. So far, the regime has promised them a lot of things, but never delivered. Because most of the war veterans are living in abject poverty, just like everybody else in Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa has used some of the looted wealth to do something extra. For the few, he bought them cars, built them houses, but for the majority of the war veterans, all they will ever get is a bicycle. Shame that a bicycle is now what you risked your lives for. and why those comrades who did not even come back died for. I reiterate, I believe what Nox is saying. The war veterans should stand up for the values and principles of the revolution. More so now when the ruling elite have hijacked the revolution. Do not let Mnangagwa's bicycle silence you. Thank you. Have a good day.